And my modality is really to connect and align, if you will, to the source of the inner wisdom and the power of healing. Some people call that 0 point field. Some people call it source or God. Some people call it inner wisdom. It doesn't really matter what the name is, but it's a place that's truly us. So we have people aligned to that space. They start vibrating at their highest vibration in that space. We ask specific questions about what's going on with a particular symptom. And then once we figure out what's going on, we actually activate high vibrational healing frequencies in order to help out with that healing, whether that be, for example, pulling a negative blueprint out of the energy field or depositing positive blueprint into the energy field. There's so many wonderful ways to self-heal. And we're actually even going to go beyond naturopathic or homeopathic medications and supplements and diets and go straight to, the energy. And why is that important? They always taught about how the energy blueprint of how the body functions, if that gets disturbed, so yin yang imbalance, meridians get imbalanced, if the blueprint gets disturbed, then the physical body will create itself out of that abnormal blueprint. So here we are in even Western medicine and even naturopathic medicine trying to treat biologically with, the supplements and the diet. And they're all very helpful for sure. However, it doesn't change the blueprint. So we have got to reach in and change the blueprint. So what is it in the blueprint that's gotten distorted so that the person's manifesting an illness or dis-ease? So in Chinese medicine, they often say, well, usually the energetic imbalance is at least 10 years, maybe more decades old before the person even has a single symptom. And we don't really address that a lot. But nowadays, the science is very interesting because through the work of Bruce Lipton, for example, know more about Bruce's work, epigenetics, what they've found is that energy is a faster shift to our biology than biological and chemical substances. So light or energy changes what the DNA makes or changes the cells faster than actual physical molecules do. So, because we think about the cell, there's a receptor, there's a vitamin that goes in the receptor, and then all this stuff happens in the cell. Well, you can create a frequency, or you have a frequency such as a positive emotion or a negative emotion, and the cell responds faster than some sort of biological agent.
Welcome to this episode of the Awakening Entrepreneur podcast. Today, I've got Dr. Karen Khan as our special guest. She's so kindly agreed to be on the show. She's a medical doctor, doctor of light medicine, a #1 international best-selling author, visionary pioneer in the fields of healing, consciousness, and spirituality. Her mission is to empower spirituality conscious people to harness their intuitive healing and manifesting superpowers so that they can reach their highest vibration and help anchor in brand new reality of love, joy, peace, harmony for all. What I really loved about her when I checked out some of her social stuff on YouTube, she's just so down to earth. Like she's got this wealth of knowledge as an MD, and subsequently, because of her personal medical issues that she had to overcome, which I'm sure she'll share about, she had to learn different modality and alternative medicine. And so she's incorporated from the Western science to the ancients and various modality, like tapping beyond the 3D as well. So I love her. She's full of fun, full of humor. She's also the founder of the Academy of Light Medicine. Dr. Karen teaches students her 3-step toe pecan healing method, which involves aligning with the source of divine wisdom, asking quality questions through divine muscle testing, and activating high vibrational healing frequencies. She's like the Yoda from Star Wars, training you to be the self-healing Jedi Master. So welcome, Karen.
Hey, Gary, so great to be here. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you for agreeing to come on. I wanted to start with, I guess, for those that don't know about your history, how do you get to where you are? Because very often when you study so many years a certain doctrine on how to do certain things, you get indoctrinated in that, but somehow you've gone encompassing the alternative and beyond, and then bringing what you've learned all these years as a medical doctor into the fold as well. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I was always one of these kids that wanted harmony in the world. I didn't know at the time what I know now about why that is. So I think I always wanted to help. And there's a lot of young people who are like that. And I don't know about your family, but in my family, first generation in Canada, a lot of their friends and colleagues were, telling their children to go to medical school, be a professional, those kinds of things. My parents were actually teachers, which was unlike most of their other friends that were engineers and dentists and doctors. So it's not like I got a lot of pressure to go to medical school, but I was, got straight A's and did really well and wanted to help people. And so it was kind of like, hint, hint, maybe you should go to medical school. So I thought, I really like science. I really love biology. I'm going to go to medical school. And so, I went to medical school and absolutely loved it. I was terrified at the same time because I was very shy. So just speaking with people and then just like examining people. And it was just really stressful at the beginning. But then, going to medical school was sort of like learning a new language, like this whole lexicon of new words, a lot of pressure. What I didn't realize then was that every little bit of stress was kind of like building and building and building and building and building. And my husband at the time was going through a really hard time, with some emotional stuff, work stuff. And so being so sensitive and empathetic, and I just kind of took that on myself as well. So I wanted to be the be all and end all for everyone, all my patients and parents, the best sister, the best wife, all these things. And eventually, I couldn't hack it anymore. So after being a medical doctor for a very short period of time, actually, had a great time being, professor at UCLA for a while, but my husband was just not happy, depressed, actually. And so, we made changes, moved away, lost my beautiful job at UCLA, but that's okay because I'm really happy now that I know what I know, that I'm not there anymore. And I had to go through what a lot of people in the wellness, spiritual leadership space go through, which is, what that's called a dark night of the soul. So that's when that stress just boom, it really hit me after years and years and years of trying to be everything to everyone, working in underserved areas, trying to be the best at everything. So my body just gave out and I ended up with chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, autoimmune disease, multiple chemical sensitivities, depression, anxiety, was even suicidal at some point. So at that point, I cried myself to sleep most nights and tried Western medications, and lo and behold, they didn't work. The stuff I was prescribing for people didn't work. And I was like, wow, I'm prescribing this stuff. That's nuts. And so I feel horrible, and, but one night it was just, like a quiet voice as I'm sobbing, quiet voice was like, you have a choice. And I was like, no, I don't. And it just kept repeating, you have a choice. Just very plainly, just very emotional, you have a choice. And so I was like, all right, well, if I did have a choice, what would I do? And it ended up, I decided I needed a divorce, which was very, very hard. My Asian family, very traditional in some ways, and divorce was very frowned upon. So it was really hard for the family, but that was the beginning of this amazing journey to healing for myself and just finally deciding to do what was for my highest and greatest good instead of taking care of everybody else and me being the last person. So that journey of, learning to heal myself first with doing self-acupuncture and then seeing an acupuncturist and doing nutritional therapy. And us doctors don't learn much about nutrition at all. So that was like an eye-opener. Seeing spiritual healers, learning to develop psychic powers and, things like that was like, whoa, there's a whole other world of healing out there. And so it was just for me, I'm just so grateful for being sick because I got to experience how to be well. And that translated into being able to teach my patients and now clients from around the world to be able to be well. And that spirituality, energy healing was like the fastest results. Most people with my diagnosis, they're disabled for life. They take medications for life. And I was able to get off all of the medications and help others to do the same thing. So that's kind of like my journey. And so I'm just really passionate about sharing just the power that people have within them to make a difference in their own life with natural therapies, with energy healing, with intention and working on themselves. Because that was the biggest, fastest, most amazing experience of healing of anyone that I know that had all those issues going on with them.
So what I thought would be interesting to explore, like I've gone through my own self-healing and suicidal and stuff like that. And I've been blown away by like what miracles can do. Like one of the condition I healed myself from is having like really chronic back pain for like 6 months or so. Seeing all these different practitioners, nobody could help. And then one night, like doing some type of meditation stuff and working on certain techniques at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's like, dude, it's gone. Maybe it's a fluke. Let me try this other spot. Yeah, I could still feel something. I tried again. And then the pain just melted away and it hasn't come back. And I've done it a few other times. So for me, since I'm not teaching, I'm not practicing, this is not my main focus. I see it as a bit of trial and error, and I don't have a methodology. Yesterday, through mountain biking, I don't even know why. I didn't even have a stack, but my shoulder started hurting. And it's almost like this is the best gift the universe has given me to say, hey, let's do a understanding, like using your teaching and methodology. Like if I was to go through this to try to self-heal or self-diagnose, what are the steps that you would guide in order to do that?
Well, there's so many wonderful, wonderful ways, to self-heal. And, obviously we're going to talk a little bit beyond what people may be already used to, like, going to the doctor, getting medications, going to physical therapy, right? We're going to go beyond that. We're actually even going to go beyond naturopathic or homeopathic medications and supplements and diets and go straight to, the energy. And why is that important? Well, in Chinese medicine, which, many people know are thousands and thousands of years old, probably more than 5,000 years old, they always taught about how the blueprint or the energy blueprint, I'm using English words obviously to explain it, but the energy blueprint of how the body functions, if that gets disturbed, so yin yang imbalance, meridians get imbalanced, if the blueprint gets disturbed, then the physical body will create itself out of that abnormal blueprint. So here we are in even Western medicine and even naturopathic medicine trying to treat biologically with, the supplements and the diet. And they're all very helpful for sure. However, it doesn't change the blueprint. So we have got to reach in and change the blueprint. So what is it in the blueprint that's gotten distorted so that the person's manifesting an illness or dis-ease? So in Chinese medicine, they often say, well, usually the energetic imbalance is at least 10 years, maybe more decades old before the person even has a single symptom. And we don't really address that a lot. But nowadays, the science is very interesting because through the work of Bruce Lipton, for example, he now that we know more about Bruce's work, epigenetics, what they've found is that energy is a faster shift to our biology than biological and chemical substances. So light or energy changes what the DNA makes or changes the cells faster than actual physical molecules do. So, because we think about the cell, there's a receptor, there's a vitamin that goes in the receptor, and then all this stuff happens in the cell. Well, you can create a frequency, or you have a frequency such as a positive emotion or a negative emotion, and the cell responds faster than some sort of biological agent. And that's really fascinating. So that is the science that really backs up this ancient wisdom from Chinese medicine and lots of other, ancient medicines, if you will. I'm just most familiar, with Chinese medicine because I'm an acupuncturist as well as an MD. So what we want to do here, like in my modality, like I said, there's many different ways of addressing it, but my modality is really to connect and align, if you will, to the source of the inner wisdom and the power of healing. So some people call that 0-point field, some people call that source or God, some people call it inner wisdom. It doesn't really matter what the name is, but it's a place that's truly us. So we have people aligned to that space. They start vibrating at their highest vibration in that space. Sometimes automatic healing starts to occur already then. Now, in my Topican healing method, we actually go a little bit further and we ask specific questions about what's going on with a particular symptom. And then once we figure out what's going on, we actually activate high vibrational healing frequencies in order to help out with that healing, whether that be, for example, pulling a negative blueprint out or a negative energy out of the energy field, or depositing a positive blueprint into the energy field. Like, for example, can I go really esoteric and weird here?
Yeah, I love that.
Okay. So I had this episode a couple of years ago with the ascension process, the vibration of the planet going up. And it's all good stuff, right? People are like, oh, the ascension is so great, right? Well, those of us that are highly sensitive souls, we're having some physical issues with that. We were swelling. We were swelling a lot. So I would gain 2-3 pounds overnight. Like, I didn't do anything. I didn't eat different. I didn't exercise different. Like, what is going on? I'm sleeping well. And it would just happen. And, when I had these alignment and conversations with God or source, to your point, I kept getting the word fluid or water. And I was like, I don't get it. Why am I getting so much water? Right. So one time I started doing my little, align, ask, and activate, the 3-step process in the Topicane healing. Long story short, discovered that in my other timeline, I'm this 7-foot, 230-pound alien, a Lemurian person, right? And the blueprint for making that 7-foot tall person was the primary blueprint my body was trying desperately to make. I know it's pretty weird stuff, but I was like, okay. Well, the thing is, my body is so dense, it's not going to grow 7 feet tall. At this age, like I'm 5'4" and I'm not going to grow. So the body was going this way instead. So I thought, well, that's interesting. So I was like, well, I'll just take it for what it is. And I thought, well, can I make the human blueprint, the primary blueprint that my body is manifesting or creating out of? The answer was yes. So we just swapped them out. We took that one off, or not out, but we made it non-dominant. And then we made the human one dominant. And within a day or two, a lot of the swelling got better. I mean, I was literally, you should have seen me. I could not put my jacket on. I was so puffy. My husband's like, okay. He didn't want to say you're getting fat, right?
Yeah.
He's like, wow, that's really tight, honey. And I was like, okay, that's it. I got to do something because I can't put my coat on. This is ridiculous. Everything's swelling. And my massage therapist, I went to the next day. She was like, wow, what did you do? Your fascia is so much looser. Went to the next massage therapist the next day for lymphatic, just happens to be back to back. Lymphatic specialist who normally is like, oh my gosh, you have so much fluid. I don't even know where you're getting this from. She was like, wow, what did you do? It's flowing so much better than the last several months. I said, I changed the blueprint, so I'm not trying to make a 7-foot tall alien. She's like, okay, well, whatever it is, it's working. So, and I taught that to some of my students. And one of my students was, gaining quite a bit of weight. And she did this. She found out she had some alien blueprints from her previous lives that were dominant. She pulled those out, put the humans one in. She just started releasing all this weight, like just excess weight. She's like, oh, this is great. I don't change my diet or exercise or anything. It's just like, just melting off me. Now, that may not be the case for everyone because weight loss is very complex, but I just thought that was really, really interesting and cool. So it wasn't just me. Other people were doing the same thing. So that's just an example of how we would use that 3-step process. We would, align with source. We would ask questions. In this case, I asked why and what is going on. And then once I knew what the answer was, then we could swap out, in this case, the blueprints. And so we can manifest off the correct ones.
When you align with source, is that kind of like getting into a meditative state?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. Well, in my book, Sensitivity is Your Superpower. And the other one, Navigating the Clickety-Clack, How to Stay Peace-Filled in a Seemingly Toxic World. It's like the core piece, and it's free. I mean, meaning it's easy to learn. I'm not very good at meditating the traditional way that people say to meditate. So I bucked that for decades. My first spiritual teacher, who helped through my fibromyalgia, she would say very gently, without being bossy, she would say, well, Karen, it would be really beneficial if you could just spend 10 minutes meditating every day, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, I know you're right, right? So I'd do it for like 2 days and then I give up. Why? Because I got bored. Like my mind is really active. I'm an athlete and I just can't sit there and I just won't do it, right? So I kind of gave up doing that. But then I discovered a book called The Secrets of Instant Healing by Frank Kinslow and learned a method that he taught in there. And I thought, wow, this is actually really easy. And what I liked about his book, he said, you do not have to sit there with your eyes closed saying, oh, you could be doing this while you're doing something else. And that got my attention. I was like, whoa, you're saying I can meditate while doing something else, like literally doing something else, and not like, okay, I'm feeling the soap suds, or I'm walking on the grass and feeling the grass on my toes. Like I would get bored in 2 seconds, right? I was at the Omega Institute as faculty, and I don't know what it is. I was always scheduled the same time as John Kabat-Zinn, super like famous guy, right? Mindfulness meditation. So his people, 100 of them, would be on the grass, looking at their feet, just walking slowly. So my husband, not knowing who he was or what he did, came one time and he was helping me with my workshop. And he goes, "What's with the zombies?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "What's with the zombies on the grass? Why are they walking like zombies?" They're not zombies. They're doing mindfulness meditation. He goes, "I'm not paying lots of money to do that workshop." I'm like, and I'm like, "I know what you mean," right? So finding this out was like so amazing that you could meditate like doing something else. So one of my students, Gary, I was like so excited about sharing this. Right? I gotta read this book and this technique. And my student was like, "I don't get it." And I'm like, "You don't get what?" I don't, well, he says, "I know you said it's really good to do, but I read the book, but I don't get it." And I said, "Okay. So how do I explain this differently?" So I said, okay. So this is what it feels like to me. So I told him, rub your hands together. Okay, rub your hands. Okay, close your eyes. And I said, feel where your hands were rubbing. Do you feel anything like traveling or moving? "Oh, yeah. I feel some energy. I feel some tingling." I said, "Okay, just focus on that. Keep focusing on it and follow where it goes." And he's like, "Okay, it's traveling up my arm." I said, "Okay." I said, "That's it." He goes, "What's it?" I said, "That's it. You just went to the same spot." "Oh, really? I just have to focus on the inside of my body, feel whatever's going on inside my body, and that's it?" I said, "Yeah, that's what I do." And he's like, "Okay." So he just ran with it and he did it. He became like the super expert at it. And I named it a stillness through observing internal movement, STOIM. So now all my students know it as STOIM. And so he became so good at it and he started just amazing and manifesting. I mean, he began like, he said, "I'm going to do a telesummit." And he got all these people together to do this telesummit. And now he's like a known name in that niche. And it just flowed. It just got him into that flow and he became more and more abundant. And that's what I found happened to me. So that's really simple method of how to do it. And we walk through it, in the book. And also I have like a freebie at the back of the book. It has a link, just a freebie 30-minute training just to have people walk through it with me, and they can download the free meditation as well. And eventually people can do it when they're doing other things with their eyes open while they're talking, like I'm talking to you and feeling the energy in my body simultaneously. So I'm literally meditating while I'm talking to you.
Holy crap,
Yeah,
that's
that's
amazing. So they can get a book. I know it's on Amazon. You also got your website, KarenKhan.com. They can go to that website to get it.
Yeah, so it comes in, the usual forms, the Kindle and the physical form. And then some people who aren't fans of Amazon said, "Can I just download an ebook?" So we did create an ebook version as well that you can get on KarenKhan.com. It's right at the top. And the cool thing is after the book launch, I decided just to keep the book launch page up because so many of my colleagues and I donated lots of different meditations and trainings and classes. And it was just an amazing group of people. And I thought, you know what? If I don't care when people buy the book, you can get that $1,000 bonus anyway. So when they buy the book, they just go to that site and they just put in their order number. And if they buy it from me, obviously we already know, but then they go to a page and they can, download all these, MP3s and MP4s and classes and ebooks and stuff like that. So they get like $1,000 worth of bonuses once they have the book.
That sounds amazing. So I'll put the links on the show notes. You also teach people to tapping into the superpowers as well. I remember one of the first video I saw on YouTube is teaching people to do muscle testing. And ever since I reading David Hawkins' book about like power versus force and other books as well, like I've wanted to do muscle testing, but I found your methodology to be easier to apply than like putting a finger through here, and you need two hands and it just seems slightly less accurate. Can you talk a bit more about how people can do muscle testing? And also, like, after listening to your video, I'll try to do muscle testing on certain things. Can you also share a bit more about questioning? Like, what are the type of questioning that is appropriate to ask and you get a valid response versus one that, "Hey, should I eat tomato today? Is this going to be good for me?" Like, if you don't ask the right question, then you may not get a valid response and you may attribute to, "Hey, the muscle testing thing is not accurate or it's not working," but it's not asking the right question, if I'm correct.
Yeah, those are great questions. Now, obviously I won't be able to teach the whole thing here. We'll touch on a couple of key points. One is that stillness through observing internal movement. I have found that if people are vibrating, in other words, they can feel some vibration or movement in their body, what happens is their energy, attention, and their energy comes back into the body. Because a lot of people run around, they're not what we call not grounded, meaning that their energy is floating up here, or, like they wake up and they're not in their bodies. In the past, I knew that because I would trip and fall or I'd break something, because I wasn't here. And all these people, Eckhart Tolle and everybody's like, be present, be present. I didn't really get it, but being a scientist, MD type of person, I think later on I figured, oh, you mean okay, so you want my energy circuits to be in the body, to be here in the body, present. I was like, that's what you mean. Okay, now I get it. So when we can be present, meaning in my case, because I am so sensitive, I feel things in my body, and 80% of people I have found are very clairsentient, as in their superpower. Their number one superpower for most people is clairsentience, the ability to feel in their body, and that includes emotions. So if we take that talent and turn it on its head and have them feel the inside of their body, it brings all their circuits back to the present moment. When that happens, that's when you can manifest something different. And that's when you can muscle test much, much more accurately. But there are other things in muscle testing that can hamper accuracy. Just being here and doing the STOIM first, which we highly recommend, helps a heck of a lot. The second thing, there's some physical issues. Some people have neck imbalances. Some people are dehydrated. So the energy is not flowing in their body. So the muscle test doesn't work as well. Other people are so sensitive, they can actually take on energies of other people. And if they're not really good or not able to, through STOIM, to get all of their energy back to them, there are other procedures that may be required. What happens is that they can proxy for someone, meaning that they can run someone else's energies. So very sensitive people can have weak boundaries. And so, for example, if Aunt Matilda, has hip pain, all of a sudden they feel hip pain in their hip. And they don't know it's Aunt Matilda's until Aunt Matilda calls them and tells them, oh, my pain in the hip has been going on for, and they're like, oh my gosh, I got pain in the hip too. I used to do this with my mom all the time, right? I'd be like, why do I have a knee pain? I don't know why I have knee pain, right? And then she calls up and says, my knee hurts. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I know why I have knee pain. So, having those healthy boundaries is really important. So we kind of go step by step in the book, how to address some of these things. Some people have head injuries and their energy is running backwards. That's what we call polarity challenges. So there are some ways of correcting that that we teach in my programs. And then the one, the sway test is usually the easiest one for people to learn when they, especially if they do STOIM first, they show me a yes. Usually people will sway forward, show me a no. Usually they sway backward. Now, some people have been trained completely opposite, which is fine. It's whatever's consistent and whatever works. I love the hand thing, but some people don't, because they're like in the clinic, because I was sitting and typing with my patients, I wouldn't stand up to do the sway test. So I would do a one-handed flick test, or, a test like this. And I learned a lot of these through Dr. Bradley Nelson from the Emotion Code. And he has all the different types that are written out with pictures in that book. And since then, I've figured out a couple other ones. So in my programs, we teach people how to do that, but they first go into that alignment piece with source, with that inner, guidance and wisdom, putting all their energy. And then in the asking, you're absolutely right. The question is really, really important. Now, I tend to ask questions, but other people say, no, you really should have statements. And then what you're looking for is a yes or a no, like a very definitive yes or a no. And through muscle testing, usually you already figure out what's a yes for you and what's a no for you. It just started raining, so if it's loud, let me know.
I can't hear anything. It's good.
Yeah, okay, great. And, so with muscle testing, when you ask the question, I don't think it really matters whether you use statements or questions, but you need to ask yes, no questions. Now, I do get around that. But it's more sophisticated. Sometimes I'll ask how many. Like, for example, in the Topican healing method, we actually teach our practitioners to go a little faster. And when they evaluate people, say someone has, gut pain, their stomach hurts. Instead of saying, what's causing or contributing to this, and then going to our guides and figuring out with muscle testing what the cause is, we might say, how many things can we heal right now causing or contributing to this gut pain? And then we start with an arbitrary number, more than 5, no, less than 5, yes. So then we would count down, 5, nope, 4, nope, 3, yes. So now we know that's 3 things that are causing and contributing to this, stomach pain that we can heal right now. And then we have other guides, which, have like, different columns and rows. And that's kind of like a cheat sheet. So we have a guide that's for negative energies that we can delete. We have a guide for positive energies that we can download. And then we have a guide that's just like what God wants you to know. For example, you might need to understand your soul mission, other ascension related things. So in our level 1 training program, we teach people how to figure out, what the answer is. A lot of them is in the guides. And then after they figure out the question and then ask it and get the yes, no answer, then we figure, okay, so if this is the cause, say, for example, in guide 1, we ask how many, say we got 3 things. Okay, what's the first most important thing? The answer we might get is it's in column C and it's row 5, spiritual row. So what's in here? There's a negative cord. Nope. Is it a vow? Nope. Is it an oath? Nope. Is it a curse? Yes. Okay, so it's a curse. Okay, so is it a curse from another person? Yep. Is it a curse that's inherited? Yes. Okay. Is it a curse from my mom's side of the family? No. Is it a curse from dad's side of the family? Yes. How many generations does it go back? More than 20? Yes. More than 40? Yes. More than 100? No. You see? And so you can actually kind of ask these different questions to hone in on the answer. And then oftentimes we ask, is there anything else I need to know? And usually that means, is there anything else that God wants to tell me before I heal this? And if the answer is no, then we do that activation and we use it through what's called a directive. So Topican healing directive is something goes like this. In this case, it would be like, I now command that this curse be deleted, dissolved, and uncreated with love, and the holes filled with love and light in the highest and best way, all directions of time, for me and all my ancestors. Thank you. And then we just let that energy settle in, and then we retest to make sure that it's gone with muscle testing. So that's kind of like in a nutshell how we would ask some questions.
Man, I love the whole cheat sheets. It reminded me when I get readings from certain psychics or people who have certain abilities, they go for similar methods and asking. And the best question I could just come up with, okay, should I eat mushroom today? And I'm thinking like, man, there should be more quality questions that I could be asking. So I love that. I look forward to getting the book and downloading the cheat sheets as well.
Well, the cheat sheets are part of a training program that's level 1. So it's not included in the book, but the book does teach you how to do the stillness. It teaches you how to do the muscle testing. And then periodically we have master classes and workshops, throughout the year, usually 2 to 4 times a year, where we kind of demonstrate these things and or have like a cheat sheet that's not, the whole thing. This is part of the healing method that people can just, like, for example, for food. Like you say, is eating, should I eat mushrooms, right? And the answer might be yes. But then it's like, well, like what kind of mushrooms, right? So how much? So for example, we would be like, okay, so how I would do this? I would be like, eating mushrooms is for my highest and greatest good today. That's how I did a statement. Or is eating mushrooms for my highest and greatest good today? If I get a yes, I say, okay, doesn't matter what kind of mushrooms that I eat, that's for my highest and greatest good. Yes. Oh, okay. So it's not all mushrooms. No. Okay. So I have shiitake mushrooms. So is eating shiitake mushrooms for my highest and greatest good today? Yes. Well, how much? A cup? No. Less than a cup? Yes. Half a cup? Yes. More than half a cup? No. Exactly half a cup? Yes. Right. And then you say, okay, well, how many times a week would it be for my highest and greatest good to eat shiitake mushrooms? Once a week? No. 2 times a week? Yes. Okay. 2 times a week, half a cup per time. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. For how many weeks would it be for my highest and greatest good to eat shiitake mushrooms, half a cup, twice a week? 1 week? No. 2 weeks? No. 3 weeks? No. 4 weeks? No. 5 weeks? Yes. You see how detailed you can get?
Yes.
So shiitake mushrooms twice a week, usually we don't measure mushrooms. We measure like bone broth, but, but that's 5 weeks. And then at that point, then you retest. So there's a lot of sophistication that people can get to instead of just a simple should I eat mushrooms.
What does Tokapan stands for?
Topican? Yeah, it's kind of a long story. So Can is my last name. But the beginning, tulpa, my husband was driving and I was traveling to Canada visiting family. We had this really long drive, like 7 hours. So I'm muscle testing and I'm asking questions and I'm talking to angels through muscle testing, right? And I thought, this is kind of like a new method. But I'm like, nah. There's tons of great methodologies out there. I mean, people got the body code, they got quantum K, they got all the stuff, right? But I kept getting like the sense that I'm supposed to do something with it. So I was like, okay. Am I supposed to teach this? The answer was yes. I said, okay, well, it's all in my head. So I don't really know how to do that. And I said, well, why do I have to teach it? I mean, there's lots of other healing modalities out there. Right. And so I had to guess, but the answer was number one, because not everyone resonates with everything. And there may be somebody that resonates more with what you do, than somebody else. Okay. I'm like, okay, I get that. And the other answer was, why do I have to make a new healing modality when there's so many? The answer was, it's part of your soul expression. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So I'm like, okay, am I supposed to name it something? Yes. I'm like, what's the name of it? Is it in English? Nope. So I was like, okay. So if it's not in English, like, what do I call it? Right. So I went silent for a moment and saw crop circles. And I thought, oh, it's a crop circle? Yes. Oh, then I got excited. So I'm looking on the web and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many crop circles, right? I'm like, is it on this page? No. Is it on this? Yes, it's on this page. Okay. So I'm like, is it in the first half of this Google search? No. In the bottom half? Yes. I'm muscle testing. Finally, I get to this poster of, oh gosh, there must have been 80 or I don't know, 40 or 80 crop circles, right? I'm like, okay, which one is it? And it was like the bottom left, right? And I'm like, well, I don't even know. Like, I was like, okay, well, I can't really call it a crop circle, but I said, is there something in English that would be similar? And the answer was yes. Okay, so then I went silent again, and then then there's this scary show. It's funny because I deal with entities, ghosts, and demons, and all that kind of stuff, and in real life. And the funny thing is, I like these scary shows. So I was watching Supernatural series, and there was one episode in there of the bad guys were actually creating a monster through this ancient technology, and it was called tulpa, Tulpa. So that came to mind. And I thought, whoa, that sounds negative. And the angels were like, mm-mm. And I said, okay. So what does this got to do with tulpa? Well, the idea of this tulpa, this ancient whatever in the Supernatural movie, was that somebody conjures up an idea, a new reality, and makes it alive. So that's what the concept was. I'm like, oh, so you're saying that this technique takes our imagination and makes it real. And so that was the answer. But I'm like, well, I'm not spelling it the same way. I don't want people to think we're making monsters, right? We heal monsters. And so I ended up spelling it with an O, Tolpa. And then I was like, and I'm not putting my name in it. And it's so funny. I'm arguing with the angels in this car, right? And James is just like, okay, whatever you're talking to, whoever you're talking to. And I'm like, I'm not going to put my name on it. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because it's egotistical. And they're like, oh, really? So I realized that I was judging others for putting their name, and a lot of them were men. So I was judging men for putting their name in the healing modality, some of them. So they said, we want you to put your name in it. And I'm like, oh, this is going to stress me out. And they're like, I know. We want you, so I was like, okay, I get it. I'm uncomfortable. You want to make me uncomfortable so I can grow. I'm being judgmental. I need to release the judgment. Yes, I will put my name in it. So that's why it's called Tulpa Can, which is the weirdest name, but that's kind of like the history of it. So now I'm fine with it, but it was a really funny argument then.
I love it. I knew there was a story behind it.
Yeah, now you know the truth.
Yes. So we've talked about, like in your book, sensitive is your superpower. The clairsentience, we've got muscle testing, we've got people healing themselves. Are there other supernatural abilities that you talk about in the book as well?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. We use the muscle testing as a tool for intuition. Can you access intuition other ways? Absolutely. It's just a tool. Like some people use a physical tool, like they use dowsing rods, they use a pendulum. I was never good at using the pendulum. Muscle testing was always my go-to. And my first healer teacher told me the reason the reason that I wasn't very good at using the pendulum was because it was like another arm for me. She says, you're so sensitive in your body. She says, your body will tell you the answer. And this is just like an extra tool that you really don't need. So it wasn't until recently that I figured something out using muscle testing, how to not heal, but improve the relationship between me and the pendulum. So now I can use a pendulum. But in the book, we have 3 sections. We have a being section, which is all about being in your body, resonating that presence. So that is where one is most powerful. You can auto heal that way just by being. You can auto heal things that you don't need to know about through asking. That'll auto heal. And the second section is like sensing. So that's like that intuition another way. So you can do divine muscle testing. You can do what we call intuitive impressioning, which is feeling in to situations. Like, for example, one could, feel into, say I'm visiting New York City, right? And my friends are like, hey, I want to go here to eat and I want to go to there to eat. Now, you could go online, you could search the different restaurants, you could look at the pictures, and it's helpful looking at the pictures. But what I'm really doing is feeling into what would it be like if I am there or we are there, right? So I feel into this restaurant. Oh my God, it's so loud, it's so crowded, and everyone's bumping into me. I don't think so, right? I feel into that restaurant. Oh, it feels more peaceful. It feels more delightful. And the thing is, when you look at the 5-star ratings, there's still a 5-star rating, right, on both ones. But if you just use the left brain, you go, well, I can't decide. These are both really great restaurants. But through feeling into, we call that intuitive impressioning, you can literally put yourself there and go, yes, that felt good. No, that does not feel good. So we teach that in the book. So that's part of that sensing. The creating one, and there's lots of different chapters for each one, but the creating one's super fun because this is about creating a new, different reality than what you already have. So we always start with, being still or being here in the body, right? That being first. And then we go and expand. So one of my favorite things to teach, usually, we do Facebook Lives and we do this for each other in our Light Warrior Network group, our groups, is weather magic. So weather magic is basically influencing the weather. And, like the Hopi Indians used to, pray for rain, and they had this whole, way of doing it. So it's similar kinds of things. So myself and my group have done all sorts of different weather magics. Now there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, so we can't do everything, but where it affects people that I love and where it affects my students, we usually have a really great impact. So we have moved hurricanes, we have dissipated hurricanes, we've stopped fires. My sister recently, Saskatchewan in Canada, had a forest fire, which happens there, and she's in the industry in geography, and she maps them, but her family were all packed, ready to go. They were going to be evacuated. And I found out about it, and I was like, okay, we are on it, right? So I put it in my, Facebook group. I said, we need weather magic for my sister. And a lot of times the fires, there's wind, so they can't, there's dust and wind. And so I just imagine, for example, like, how when you have dirty dishes and there's like water on it and you just put a drop of soap in it and all the dirt just kind of goes like this to the side. Well, that's what I imagine. That's that tulpa, the imagination, using that. So in stillness, I imagine that happening, right? And other people imagine different things. I've actually vacuum cleaned fires before, which is, I think I might have done a combination in this case of things. And sure enough, within, I think, 24 hours, it stopped. Like, in other words, it stopped advancing on her city. And then 48 hours, 72 hours started raining. And she goes, thank you. So they never had to abandon their home.
Would the whole group
no damage.
The same methodology of vacuum or whatever way they imagine, or each person just using their own creativity?
Yeah, they can use their own. I sometimes will tell the group, this is what I'm imagining, but they can use their own, because the first time we did it was a 225 mile per hour hurricane Hurricane Patricia was hit land already in Mexico, and it's a very poor area in Mexico in 2016. And they said, oh my gosh, there's going to be so many people out of homes. It's going to create so much damage. And the news was having a heyday. You know how the news loves to get people anxious and upset about things. So I didn't find out about it till like Friday night. It already hit landfall. One of the people on their newsletter, she says, we need prayers, for Mexico. And I'm like, what's going on? Because I don't watch the news, right? What's going on? So I found out about it. So I immediately went on Facebook. And at that point, my tribe was like 20 people. So I immediately said, I don't know, you're different parts of the world, but if you are up, if you are awake, we need weather magic for Mexico, like ASAP, right? So I do my thing. And sometimes I'll look at the storm and I'll reverse it, or I'll have it go this way or have it sucked up. I mean, there's different things I do depending on what feels like it wants to happen. And then I forgot about it. So we asked everyone to do weather magic. I think 2/3 were awake. So they did it. I did it. The next day, we went to a friend's house for a Halloween party, came back home. My husband's looked online and he says, it worked. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, well, yeah, remember yesterday you were imagining the hurricane just petering out into like rain and that was it? He goes, that's exactly what happened. I'm like, no way, really? So he showed me the news report and it was like heavy rain, but no damage, no lives lost, and literally petered out. This humongous storm just went, and I was like, we did it, guys, we did it. And I actually have like evidence, like you can see the post still in the group, where I posted it, urgent, need weather magic, So since then we've done tons and tons of different things. Like one of my students was in Boca Raton, Florida. I can't remember which hurricane. We've done so many. This one hurricane coming right for them, and they're like 8 feet. They're like, Boca Raton, you're going to be under 8 feet of water. So be prepared. Sorry, you're going to lose your house, right? She was freaking out. So she's like, weather magic, weather magic. I'm like, okay, yeah, we're on it, right? So we do whatever healing we do. We don't even know what it's going to look like. And sometimes if the weather is, let's just say, enhanced artificially, we have even more abilities to make a difference. So in this case, literally the eye of the storm is coming right for Boca Raton, and it goes and splits into two and goes around her. Wow. And she goes, oh my God, this is so amazing. She said, we got a little rain, but nothing after that. Yeah. Like if that is not like an act of God, what is, right? So people have these powers. We teach it to children. You can teach weather magic to children. You can do traffic magic, travel magic. We can do transformational telepathy, where you talk to someone by writing 10 things you appreciate about the person. If you're having conflict with them, works like a charm. It's amazing. Like oftentimes I get results within 24 hours. Some people may have to practice it. We usually tell 30 days in a row. You write, if you're having conflict with your husband, your child, you go ahead and write 10 things you appreciate about them and feel the appreciation, rate it, feel it, enhance those emotions. And you do that for 30 days straight and see the results. And it is often magical results.
Well, I was going to ask you, have you taught this to children as well, or have some of the children learned from your teachings? And you touched on it. Can you expand on it? Because that's one of the areas that obviously having 3 kids myself, like I've taught them, they've learned certain psychic ability, that they've learned reading with blindfolds on.
Oh, great.
Yeah. But like, I'm always intrigued to tap onto our human potential, because there's so much that I know that we as a human being that we could do beyond what's being taught in school, in class. So you touch on traffic, like, can you expand a little bit more? Because each one of these I'm intrigued.
Yeah, that's so great. And, your kids are so lucky to have such a conscious, or conscious parents. And I just get so happy, when I hear about what conscious parents are doing. When I had my clinic, I'm now retired from, my MD clinical practice and my acupuncture practice. I had some very sensitive adult patients with some that had sensitive children. And one of them was, he was around, I think 13, 14 at the time. And mom was a healthcare provider, but she trusted me. She came in, she said, I don't know what to do with them, because he is being violent to his, baby sister, his half sister, and I'm ready to ship him off to dad. But I knew immediately this was a sensitive child and he was feeling other energies. So I teach the parents to say, hey, your child is acting up more than likely because they're highly sensitive and they're reacting to energies in their environment. So we actually have to teach them how to, cleanse their auric field, how to, protect themselves, if you will, from other people's stuff, and how to shed other people's stuff from them. So when he came into the office, he's like, he just looked like he felt ashamed. He thought, oh my God, another doctor, and he thought that I was going to be hard on him about being violent to his sister. And I said, you're really gifted. There's nothing wrong with you. You're really actually very gifted. And he just was like, am I hearing this right? And Mother's, was just silent, just letting me talk. And I said, yeah, you actually really gifted. You are feeling a lot of stuff, and some of that stuff isn't yours. So if there's stress happening at school, somebody's getting in trouble, guess what? You get to feel that. Someone's arguing 3 doors down, you get to feel that. And he goes, yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm going to explode. Right.
And
I'm
they
like,
don't know why.
Exactly. I said, exactly. I said, you're feeling other people's stuff. So here's the thing. You actually need to shed other people's stuff. So I have an idea. I have this spray. It's called the Clarion Protection Spray Formula. And you can just, charge some water. And I have some here. I said, here's a spray, clearing spray. And it helps to clear, negative energies from your energy field because you're feeling all this stuff. And so I said, well, you know what, Mom, do you want to try it? Mom's like, yeah, sure. So I said to him, do you mind spraying Mom? We'll just make her a little wet. It'll be really fun. Right. So he's like, right. So he sprays Mom. Mom's like, refreshing. Right. And so we say, so do you want to try it? And he goes, sure. Right. So, Mom sprays him. We have a little giggle. He gets a little wet. And so I say, how do you feel? I didn't really know what he was going to say. And he goes, I feel calm. He says. I was like, oh, well, that's great. I said, I have a favor for you, a favor to ask you. I said, if Mom comes home stressed and she would like some help spraying her, would you be willing to do that for her? So here I am empowering this 14-year-old to help his mother, right? Like he's thinking he's getting in trouble in my office. Like there's something wrong with him. I'm telling him, there's nothing wrong with you. You're talented and we need your help, right? And he's like, yeah, I'll help Mom. Yeah, if Mom wants to be sprayed, I'll spray her. I said, and here's the thing, if you come home and you feel like you're going to explode, you can always ask Mom to do that too, if you want to. And I said, Mom, are you okay with that? Mom's like, sure. Yeah, honey, if you want, just let me know. Right. So I tell Mom, I said, look, ask him to help you, right? Empower him. So it's not like you're the problem. You need to be the one sprayed. We all get stressed, right? So you ask him, can you please spray me, honey? I'm feeling a little stressed, right? Like you model that behavior. She's like, I got it. Right. And she did. So she was a conscious parent. And I, talked to him 3 weeks later. She said, absolutely no violent episodes. Getting along great with his baby sister. And one day he did come home and say, Mom, spray me, because he was ready to explode. Right. And she did. And he was like, right. And he was totally calm, totally back to himself. And he was a really sweet boy. So little children sometimes, and even, older kids, they don't do well in school, especially test time, because they might do well like most of the time, but in a test situation, all of a sudden, 90% of the people in the class are feeling anxious about the test, right? And if you're sensitive and you don't know how to put the bubble around you or the shield, if you will, we used to call it a bubble. So we taught them how to imagine a bubble and blah, 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 And so if they don't put their bubble up, what happens is their energy affects them. And I had one person with fibromyalgia. She was, again, about early teens, 13, 14, something like that. She literally froze, could not remember anything. And she was a top A+ student, and she would ace everything except during exam time. Why? Because she was feeling everybody else's stuff and their anxiety. She literally could not remember anything. Luckily, because she had the medical condition, they said, look, we know you're an A+ student, so let's put you in a room alone and let you redo the test. And she aced it. Right. So we just need to recognize that there's more and more young people and children who are sensitive. It's part of the evolution of humans for us to be able to communicate telepathically, for it to be able to sense things. And, like some of the animal kingdom, right? Like they know when there's a predator, they know when, and we don't trust our children to do these things naturally. We untrain them to do them. And then now we're trying to train them back because we didn't know how to do it either. So, we need to trust our children more. And if they say they're seeing, a ghost or, somebody invisible's talking, invisible to us, is talking to them, we need to be curious about, oh, okay, yeah, well, so what does your friend Peter say? I really can't see Peter. Sometimes older people can't see, spirits, but what does Peter say? Well, Peter says that I should hit my brother over the head. Oh, well, you know what? I'm not very happy with Peter right now, right? So you're not saying, oh, Peter doesn't exist, stop lying, none of that stuff. You're just curious. So they know that you say, okay, look, Peter's not welcome in this house. Okay. And there are ways we have about clearing sprays, one of the things we do, but there's ways in which we can say goodbye and heal the ghost or whoever's Peter is, that's causing the problem. And they can enact their own bubble and go, you need to heal and you need to go right now. Right. And we've had little kids. I had a 6-year-old whose sole mission, which we were allowed to test, sole mission was to heal dark angels. I'm like, we're talking like really big, scary stuff, right? She's 6, but she's an old soul. So she's got multiple timelines, right? So she picked this really hard assignment. So we taught the grandmother, said, look, I know you're clearing her all the time. And she gets angry and then she has got dark angels. I said, communicate somehow to the mom, like, look, this is her mission, is to heal them. We can put a little healing vortex around them, but at the end of the day, she will need to sense them. She will need to know she's starting to get upset and she will need to clear them and she can do it. So we gave them some very simple, things. And once the 6-year-old understood her role, she would start getting upset and she goes, oh, hang on, Nana, somebody needs me. Right? And she would do her thing. She made it up herself, what she did. You're getting healed. We're sending you love, whatever she did, right? Dark angel gone. She's back to her happy self. Okay, now I'm back to playing. Like, how amazing is that? 6-year-old. Most adults will go running away. Like, dark angel, oh my God, I'm running away, right?
Yeah.
But we had to teach her because that was her role.
Yeah.
We couldn't do the work for her.
So back to the spray, is it some formula or is it placebo? Like, how could we get our hands on the spray?
Well, the spray, actually in the back of the book, it has all of my freebies out here in the last, it's called Next Steps. So I've got, in the back, the freebies, it's got the clearing and protection spray.com. So basically it's an energy infused MP4 video. And what you do is you take a spray bottle. And for children, what I love to do is have them choose like a fun purple, blue, green, spray bottle from the dollar store or whatever. Decorate it with stickers, unicorns, whatever they want to do, right? Because that's going to be their power spray, magic spray, whatever you want to call it. I call it clear and protection spray for me because I'm an adult, right? But you can call it whatever you want. Monsters away. That's a good one. And then you play the MP4 and you just tell the child or yourself, you just play it and you just look at the water and you go, okay, charge this water. Thank you. And you just pay attention to the water for about 9 seconds. And then the frequencies know the water that you want charged. The video is about 3 minutes long, but you actually don't have to play through the whole thing. But a lot of kids just love the video because it's got like lights and stuff. So they're just staring at it. So that's in there. We have the Sensitive Soul Empowerment Guide as a freebie for, 3 ways and for sensitive people navigating their way to more peace, positivity, and personal power. So we talk about the mistakes that people make, that are sensitive souls, like not being able to know what's them and what's not them. Being able to clear your energy field, discernment, that kind of thing. And the last one, Stillness on the Fly, the freebie, that's the STOIM training. So it's all here in the back, and you can certainly put those links as well on the show notes.
You mentioned 9 seconds. Why 9 seconds in particular?
I just asked God.
Got it.
I said, how long? Yeah. So how long does it, do they have to play this for it to charge? And it was 9 seconds. I thought, well, that's pretty short. That's cool. Now, the funny thing is, I have these other self-healing programs and I've been energy infused. Now, the freebie has like 10 energies in it. It helps to clear negative entities, prevent ET interference, positive energies to help angels and others help you. And it does help to clear some electromagnetic fog to some degree. So there's some very, very simple frequencies in there. But my other programs that are paid programs, much more powerful frequencies and more holistic and encompassing. And I was trying to find a way to infuse it into the MP3s because I had two big ones. One was called Ascension 1 and one's called Ascension 2. Ascension 1 deletes negative energies and Ascension 2 downloads positive energies. But I couldn't get them both on the same track. Like it was kind of like, And I asked God, like, why is that? And it's just like the medium. The medium wasn't allowing both these intentions in the same one. So one day I asked, is there a way to get two in one? Because what my clients were doing, my customers, my students, they were literally taking a cell phone in one room, playing Ascension 1 all day long, making their intentions, playing a computer, Ascension 2 in another room, and they had them going, right? They had both going all the time, Ascension 1 and 2. But I thought, wouldn't it be great to have like something that had both? So it'll automatically help to delete negative energies that are around you and automatically download positive ones. And then you can ask it to do something as well. And the answer was crystal. And I was like, oh, I need a physical thing. And the answer was yes. So I invented, so to speak. So we have crystal jewelry, and you can actually do silicone as well. It actually holds the energy really well. Glass, silicone, crystal. And we were able to infuse the jewelry and the products with both Ascension 1 and Ascension 2. So now people just, hold this and, make the command, whatever they want to heal or do. They can charge water with it. We actually have silicone bands that we sell is a little bit cheaper than the crystal. And you put it around your water. So it infuses the water with whatever positive frequency you want it to. So the 9 seconds came about because I found through another healer that she had sent her product for testing in Switzerland. And Masaru Emoto, who many people know, Messages in Water, very famous researcher, right, showed that positive emotions were connected with amazing, beautiful water crystals. And most of the time, the people that he taught to do this type of frozen water photography, they would put the plate, the healing object, whatever, overnight or 8 hours. And then they would take the photo to see if there was a crystal. And if so, then they had evidence that their product worked. So they would take distilled water as the control, and then they would charge the distilled water on top of whatever it was that they were testing. And then they would look at the pictures and see if there's a difference. So I do my thing, go into stillness, and I ask Source, okay, so I'm pretty sure I don't need to wait 8 hours. So how long do I wait? 9 seconds. I'm like, okay, 9 minutes? Nope, 9 seconds. So I thought, okay. So I told my husband's like, just 9 seconds? Like, what if you don't get any crystals? I'm like, well, if I don't have any crystals, I'll just have her do it longer, right? Just pay extra. And I'm like, okay, God said 9 seconds. So the lady in Switzerland said, okay, we'll do it your way. She says, what do I do? I said, yeah, you just take I'll send you a necklace. You look at the water for 9 seconds and put whatever intention you want in there. And she said, that's it, 9 seconds. I said, yeah, that's it. So she did that and she immediately froze them. And then, she sent me the pictures, and yes, the beautiful water crystals did form. But the funny thing, she used the word healing. So she said, I want you to charge with healing. And the funny thing is I only paid for one photo and she gave me 2. One as a gift. And I'm like, oh, that's really nice. So we put these 2 up on the website, which, by the way, as of the recording, as of this moment, it's not open because we can't make everything. So it takes a while for us to fulfill. So we're only open 1 week out of the month. So we call it Ascension 3. So she just does this thing and gives me these amazing photos. And one of my people say, well, one of them's a pentagram. Isn't that bad? And I'm like, oh, it is, isn't it? And I thought to myself, have I ever seen anything that's a pentagram of Masaru Emoto's? I'm like, no, I haven't. Huh. And I said, well, I don't think it's bad. I mean, because it's part of the flower of life, right? The 5 platonic solids includes a dodecahedron, right? I mean, icosahedron, right? They have icosahedron has pentagrams on the side of it. It's part of the flower of life. And anyway, so I said, pretty sure it's not bad, but let me check in. So I thought, well, let me do an internet search. So I did an internet search. Does a 5-sided water crystal happen in nature? That's, I pretty much searched for that. And the answer was yes. It's very rare. It was some sort of glacier somewhere that they found this thing. It was so rare, to find a 5-sided crystal, but it occurs in nature. So I think the universe is giving me a little bit of a hint, just my interpretation, because like I said, this was extra. I did not ask for this photo, but she gave it to me and she didn't even mention it was pentagonal. I didn't even notice until someone else said it. Because I'm so busy. I think the universe was saying you're special. What you do is special, and we want you to know.
Nice.
So yeah. So that was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. So that's where the 9 seconds came from. God told me 9 seconds, it's all it takes. And I think healing is happening faster, Gary. Like I think especially when you do that stillness exercise, when you go from stillness to intention, or if I'm trying to find something that I've lost, if I go to stillness and be patient for a few seconds, oftentimes the image pops into my head. This is not special of me. Anybody can do this. They just have to want to do it and just practice so people can get good at it. I love teaching people to do what I do.
I love that a lot of your stuff, it doesn't require hours and hours of meditation. And for the people that can do it and it's working, like all powers to them as well. It's just
for sure.
A different form for people that is kind of falling into the same path or same mold that you are built. Some people just find it difficult to meditate for more than 10 minutes. For the shield that you talked about, is that in the book as well?
Yeah, it's gone through several different names. We used to teach that in the office as shields up or your bubble, or, for the children, we'd often say bubble because they can picture it, right? Your protective bubble of light. What happens when you go into that stillness space, in the way we do it, stillness through observing internal movement, what actually happens is that there's a light that emanates from each of us. That light radius expands when you're here in the present moment. I wish somebody explained that to me earlier, years ago, but I would have been much more motivated to meditate, but it's all good. So that expands. And what's really, really cool is the more time cumulatively over the day that we can feel our bodies and just be here, it expands every time we pay attention to our bodies. That is your automatic shield. That actually kind of catalyzes, if you will, that automatic shield. When you are more of you, stuff that is not you tends to fall away, get cleared, get cleaned automatically. There are exceptions, of course. Usually the exceptions are when people have to know something, which is where the muscle testing is really handy. And some people just need to know that, you have an 80-year-old curse that you needed to release. And we needed you to know that, right? But there are other reasons why people might need to know. They have a higher responsibility, but just by going to the stillness space, you can do that. But people can visualize, right? The whole Tulpa can is all about using your imagination. So you can imagine whatever it is serves you. You can imagine a beautiful light bubble. You can imagine bubblegum bubble. You can imagine a vortex, around you. It actually is a vortex. Whatever works. And when I taught that to the kids, like, the one child that had difficulty with her exam, she forgot that day to do it. I hadn't seen her for a number of weeks, and people forget stuff when they're feeling well. So then she just, it just was horrible during that test. And I said, "Okay, did you do your shields up?" I forgot. I said, "Well, that explains things." So after that, she was like so much better. Shields up. Like when someone was like being mean or attacking or whatever, bullying, shields up. And she was automatically doing that and feeling so much better. So even just having that intention in that space, shields up, is enough. You don't have to do anything fancy.
I love it. I spend quite a bit of time with my kids since they're homeschooling right now. And sometimes they play with sword and shield. And so you've got the shield that you're teaching, and you got the spray gun, which sometimes they play with like Nerf gun, water guns and stuff. So they got the weapon and they got the shield. So if someone is one of your siblings is annoying you, triggering you, you have defense, and not as a weapon of attack, but in a fun way, you can help each other get off that state.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, you just reminded me, Gary, that one of my teachers, former patient, her grandchildren used to fight like cats and dogs, like they love each other, but they just fought, right? And the 8-year-old, then 8, was watching one of the lessons that I had, in one of my programs, shields up, clearing the auric field, right? And she was just like doing it, right, with her grandmother, just clearing her auric field and shields up. She really liked it, right? So, but the grandmother's not really teaching it to her. She was there when she was learning it. And a little time later on, she said, "Grandma, Chloe doesn't bother me anymore because when she starts bothering me, I just go, shields up, like Dr. Karen says." which like was hilarious to me, right? Because she's just watching me on this video doing it, but she just did it. And children are amazing that way. Like they just pick up stuff so easy. You teach them how to do the sway test, they're already muscle testing. I had somebody who's in her 20s now, but I took care of her for a very short period of time in her teens, mid-teens. And she was having a little bit of anxiety, and she, messaged me, and I said, hey, you need to read my book. So she did. She read it in one fell swoop. She loved it. And she realized, you're the one I learned muscle testing from. She had forgotten who taught it to her, right? Because I use it all the time, right? And she understood that the stuff wasn't hers. And the minute she understood that, she was able to clear it. She goes, I feel so much better. I'm not anxious anymore.
Do you have
It was
plans
awesome.
to teach a course to kids?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that too. Well, first of all, I have a lot of things on my wish list, Gary. There's like not enough time in the day. Like my mentors are like, you need to wait, right? Because I'm always creating, but I'm not organized. So they're like, hang on, one thing at a time. Yeah. So I have two things on my wish list. Number one is I do teach a program called the Light Warrior Training Camp. And most of the time it's an in-person camp. We actually go through pretty much the whole book, but we actually have that accountability. So we actually have you go do the healing, have you do the telepathy, have you do all these things. And I can do little checkups. I can do mini healings with people so I can control the energy and make sure that you are actually getting it and doing it. So we have that. One of my dreams is that we expand this to all 4 continents, and we have an adult version, a teen version, and a little kid version.
Oh, that's so cool.
So that they can all learn weather magic, they can all learn, that telekinesis and, tapping into their intuition. So that's my dream. Obviously, I will need more teachers for that because I can't do that on my own. And also, I don't personally have little kids. So other people are better teachers for little kids than I am. I do great with teenagers, but for the younger children, I need teachers, to know the stuff, to learn it, to be able to teach it. My other wish list, Gary, is actually a children's book series. So the children's book series is going to be like little pieces of these learnings, but in a fun and short, how these books are really short, right, for little kids. So they can go to their happy place or their bubble or whatever. We'll use the right vernacular and language for that, but it can be fun. And so parents can teach them these skills, but using child language instead of adult language.
Yeah, well, if I can support you in any way, I'm more than happy to, because like I've having 3 kids and wanting to expand their consciousness in harnessing what they're capable of is extremely rare. Like so far, I haven't found any school like that have all-encompassing teaching them how to face certain situations, and for parents as well. Like for example, like I might try to get my kids to clean up the room, and they may not do it, and I may get upset because the room is all messy, yada yada yada. But what if their life mission is to actually bring fun to this planet, or to bring fun to Earth, or to humanity? And cleaning up the room is not high in the priority in what their life mission is. And so without understanding that and trying to force like you have to clean your room, you have to clean your room, and butting heads, that's not going to serve either party moving forward. But how do we navigate through those situations? What are some of the skills that we can teach the kids and teach the parents? Is like I haven't come across any school that teaches these encompassing skills as well as the telekinesis and telepathy and remote viewing and all these other abilities that we can tap into.
Yeah, you made a really good point because, it's great, accessing our superpowers and learning some of that stuff. And of course, the whole bubble thing is, really quite necessary. However, like you said, there are everyday challenges that, how do we teach parents and children, how to navigate those? How do we make it a game? How do we make it fun? That's where the parent having the skill sets in intuitive impressioning and those kinds of things can be really helpful because they can tune in. And of course, some of them have to learn a language palette of how to talk to their children. Of course, it's always easier to talk to other people's children than it is your own children. It's easier for me to like come up with, scripts, for parents than well, I don't have kids, but my dog doesn't always listen to me. But it'd be, very interesting. Like, for example, if the child is crying and they're seeing ghosts, or like you said, they're not cleaning their room, then you're like, okay, on the one hand, as a parent, do I really want them to grow up like a slob and have their wife really mad at them because they never clean their room? Or is there a minimum amount of cleaning that, I think just to navigate social interactions would be good. So how do I make this fun? How do I answer the question, what's in it for me? Right. So is that a prize? Is that, a contest? Or is that something that's, doesn't take 30 days, right, for them to get feedback? And a lot of times it's like time with you, time with you, a special time or a special book or, something like that. And preferably not sweets as a reward, because that's way overdone and not necessarily good. But oftentimes that extra time with the parent is like the what's in it for me kind of thing. So yeah, I'm sure you can come up with some, creative things on that. But sometimes here's the thing. A lot of kids are naturally telepathic, especially the very young ones. And then they kind of don't get the feedback. So they kind of lose that. So for some people that are, willing to play that game, that have grandchildren in that age group or even children in that age group, they're 1, 2, 3 years old, I have them actually do telepathy. So for example, say, maybe they're too young to do it at 3, but, say you want them to put their toys away. Okay. And you've taught them how to do it, things like that. And they're not really listening. So you could, for example, you're in another room and you, in your mind, imagine them cleaning the room and imagine them running into the kitchen and you guys get to make homemade pizza together, So you're giving them that whole scenario of how they're going to feel when they've cleaned their room. And oftentimes they will catch that. One easy thing to do, now mind you, this is with food, but an easy thing to do would be like a cookie, right? So the 3-year-old's in another room and you're like, I'm going to try some telepathy. So they can't see you, but you want them to come to the kitchen to just try it out, right? So they're doing whatever they're doing in another room, they're safe. But you're like, I'm going to try this telepathy. So what you do is you imagine them running into the kitchen and you giving them a cookie and you giving them a big hug. And you seed that vision in their mind. And lo and behold, they come running into the kitchen. They don't know why they're running into the kitchen. They just know it feels good to run into the kitchen, right? And so that's the way parents can kind of gently start, experimenting with some of those things. So if what's in it for them, if you answer that question and you give them the feeling of what's in it for them, joy, happiness, fun, time with you, then it doesn't have to be all this left brain language stuff that we do. Well, if you clean your room, then you get this. And you know what I mean? Because if you connect to them at the emotional level, using that telepathy, you'll get more of what you want. Hint, hint.
Yeah.
That's transformational telepathy level 2 that we teach in the camp. But it's really neat. We've saved people money in court cases, lawyer fees, lots of different things you can do with it, not to manipulate the situation, because only if it's for the highest greatest good does it happen. There's so many ways that you can communicate to your kids that is nonverbal.
Man, this is amazing.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, it's so helpful. And I could be talking to you for not hours, not days, but years.
It's so fun.
We'll still be talking. So thank you so much for all the wisdom that you've shared. And again, I'll highly recommend you to go to KarenKhan.com and I'll share the links on the show notes. Yeah, get the book, do the course if you feel aligned and drawn to it. And if you do, message me and we'll share notes on what we've learned and what some of the abilities we could play with. Maybe we could do a remote viewing. You hide something in your room and I try to figure it out. And that's always fun. So thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate it. It was so much fun speaking with you, Gary, and I really enjoyed the questions and the interaction. And thank you for having me and sharing me with your tribe.
Thank you. And if you enjoy the podcast, comments, like, subscribe, and also follow the links to Karen's social medias. She's shared a whole bunch of goodies as well. She's really active. So go check it out as well.
Thank you.